I'd like to introduce another longtime friend and colleague of mine, Patrick Phillips, to moderate The View from Europe. I first met Patrick when he was in private practice as president of Economic Research Associates, a market analyst firm that my firm frequently collaborated with across the country. Patrick and I worked on a number of major projects, and I was quite pleased when the Urban Land Institute was astute enough to recruit Patrick to be its chief executive officer. So I turn you over to Patrick Phillips.
It's great to be back in Pittsburgh. You know, Frank Lloyd Wright said of Pittsburgh that it's the only city in America with a front door. And those of you who came in through the tunnel saw that, experienced that. It's a wonderful place. And Don and his colleagues at UDA, as well as many other people in the room, have had a lot to do with that. So I've been traveling a lot the last couple of weeks, and I've been carrying around 2 books that have been entertaining me and sometimes putting me to sleep, but I'm churning my way through them both. And I think they help to frame up our panel. The first one is by a friend and colleague from ULI who spent many years in Europe introducing the Europeans to a fairly radical new retail concept, designer outlet shopping. He was very successful in that venture, and his company ended up developing about 20 of those centers around Europe. His name was Byrne Murphy. His book is called Le Deal. And, you know, he makes the point that is familiar to Europeans, of course, but sometimes not to Americans, that there is no Europe as we might think of America, as a place that's more or less unified with respect to culture and history and a sense of common direction, that Europe is a complex place culturally and economically and geographically and certainly politically. Again, not news to those of us who've been paying attention in the past couple of years especially, but our panel is titled A View from Europe, and I suspect that there'll be a range of opinions, a range of observations that reflect the complexity of the place over the next hour and 15 minutes. Our panelists. Our first speaker this afternoon will be Corinne Hermant de Calaté. Corinne is a social scientist. She's with the European Commission Directorate General on Urban and Regional Policy. She's been a leader of an interagency study group on the cities of tomorrow and has been on the speaking circuit quite a bit discussing the findings of that program. She has a long-standing interest in the impacts of new technologies on cities and regions. Our second speaker will be Rob de Vos. Rob is an experienced diplomat. He currently serves as the Consul General of the Netherlands. This follows previous postings in places as diverse as Yemen, Mali, Madrid, and South Africa. He's based in New York City. Rob's trained in industrial economics, and he's a close observer of the challenges facing Dutch and German industrial cities in the post-industrial era. And our final speaker will be Mayor George Ferguson of Bristol, England. Mayor Ferguson has been in office for just about a year, 11 months today, he tells me. He is an architect, restaurateur, brewer, mayor. Terrific set of qualifications, in my view. But also very accomplished as a professional. He's former president of the Royal Institute of British Architects. His creativity shows also in his electoral strategy. To stand out on a crowded ballot, he created his own political party called Bristol First, of which he was the only member, and remains the only member, I think, of the party. That was in order to stand out, again, on a crowded ballot. Now, I've also heard that he uses a certain sartorial flourish to stand out as well, but I'll be damned if I can figure out what that is. So please join me in welcoming all of our panelists, and I'll invite Corinne to the podium.